Here from another round of Aragon Nest grant recipients today, so that's super cool. For those of you that didn't hear about Aragon Nest yesterday, it's a program originally set up by the Aragon Association with placeholder VC to fund common goods projects in the Aragon and Ethereum ecosystems. The grants program recently received its 2019 funding through the Aragon governance proposal process, so we should give a big round of applause for that. Governance at work. So in this first session, we'll hear from more teams that received their funding in 2018. The first Nest team presenting is BrightID, a team working on a privacy-preserving identity system that ensures the uniqueness of each user in the system.
All right. So this is an interactive presentation, so I need everyone to take out their phone. And you'll see up here, I've got a URL for you to go to on your phone. You're going to install an app called BrightID. If you're an iPhone user, you'll go through test flight and then come back and install the BrightID app. If you're an Android user, you can go to the Play Store and install BrightID. Or we also have a direct link to an APK if you don't like Google. So while you're doing that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why BrightID. So I was thinking a while back, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to buy a piece of land. It didn't really matter what kind of land. It could have been bare land, it could have been commercial land. And I wanted to open it up to anybody to decide how to use that piece of land. And then I wanted to see after that if there was rewards or maybe rental income, if I could distribute that back to everybody who was participating. And I ran into, before I got anywhere near that, there were two problems. The first, and it actually boils down to really the same problem, but the first problem was with the voting. So how do I have a vote where I make sure that each person can only vote one time? And then the second problem was with distributing the rewards. How do I distribute rewards in such a way that everyone gets an equal share? And it really is, like I said, the same problem. And I'll call it the one account per user problem. There are people who would like to distribute large amounts of currency, could be an existing currency, could be a brand new currency, and they'd like to get that out to as many people as they can in a way that's as fair as possible. You can think of universal basic income, but how do you do that in a fair way? How do you solve this problem, this one account per user problem? Aragon is really good with token voting. You can do a lot of cool things with voting with tokens, but what if you wanted to do a per person vote? How do you do that? With BrightID, you could have, with a BrightID enabled Aragon DAO, you could have a per person vote. So let's talk about what BrightID is and what it isn't. BrightID is an identity network, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but let's think about what we're already familiar with. So I have a social security number that I got from the United States government, and sometimes I use it online, which is really stupid because a couple of years ago, Equifax had a data breach where 50% of all United States social security numbers were leaked to attackers. 50% of Americans should have replaced their social security numbers, but of course we didn't because that's really difficult to do that. With BrightID, to replace your BrightID, all you do is reconnect to a few friends. If you think about it, we all, as human beings, we come into this world with the ability to say, yes, I am a real person, but somehow we've decided that it's okay that we give that up to a national government and abdicate that right to them. So I think with BrightID, you can take just the people that make the most sense to verify you as a unique person are the people that are enabled to do that. And those are the people that you already know. It's not some abstract government. It's not some big corporation that you're sharing your data with. You're making connections in an identity network. On the face of it, it feels a little bit like Facebook, but it's completely not the same. I don't want anyone to go away thinking like that, oh, I don't need BrightID, I already have Facebook. Not the same, totally different use case. Every time you make a connection or join a group in BrightID, it's for the sole purpose of either helping someone else to be verified as a unique individual or verifying yourself as a unique individual. So let's get into actually what this looks like. And you can follow along on your phone if you want. But when you first install BrightID, you get to this onboarding screen. And as soon as you are ready to get past that, you can just click on the Get Started. And you'll see that, so I'll wait a second for that to catch up, but make sure that's running. I might have to double click it. Oops. Yikes. Okay. It's kind of weird. I'm not doing that. Okay, I'll talk a little bit through it while this catches up. Hopefully it's running. So with BrightID, there we go. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to add a photo. You could have someone take a picture of you. You could do a selfie. You could choose from your library. I'm going to choose from my library. I've got a bunch of photos that I already took, so I'll just pick one. And then I'm going to go and add my name. I like to use my full name because I like people to know who they're dealing with. And so after I've entered my full name, then I just create my BrightID. From here, you can see that my score is pretty bad. It's 0. And so what do I do to get that up? The score is actually really important to applications. That's what they use to determine whether or not you're a unique person in this network. So we've got to try to, it runs on a scale from 0 to 99.99. So we want to get that up. And to do that, I've got to join groups. And to get groups, I've got to make connections. So like if you look at my connections, no connections. If you look at my groups, no groups. So I need to start making connections. So if I hit new connection, then it makes a QR code. And this is a one-time use QR code. So if I go back to the home screen again and I hit new connection again, it's going to be a different QR code this time. And another way to make a connection is to scan someone else. So if I scan someone else's QR code, that will make a connection. So I see some people already doing it, which is pretty awesome. So I've got some friends here. This is Elsa. I scanned her, make a connection. I'm going to go to my next friend and scan them and make another connection. This is Sona. Yes, I confirm that. Scan someone else, my friend Joe. I'll make a connection with him. So I'm building up my connections. This is really cool. So I'm already up to 3 connections. That's a good start. My score is still 0 though. If I look at my connections though, I can see that they actually have way better scores than me. So what's up with that? It's because they've already joined a group. And if I look at groups, I can see that they have this group that has this nice score. And now I can actually join it because I know them. And so if you know enough people in a group, you can join that group. And then if I look at the group, I can see that I just know those 3 people in the group right now. But that was enough to join the group. If you know 50% or more, you can join the group. You can also create a new group, and you would just have to select 2 co-founders to create that group with you. And now I've got a new group. I'm just waiting on them to join that group, and then I'll have another group. So the cool thing about all that is now that I have a group, now I'm going to get a score. So if I go back to the home screen, now I have a score. And my score came from that group. So the way it works is your score is the same as the highest score of your best scoring group. And so making groups is crucial to BrightID. It's not just like some cool social thing. It actually serves a purpose. It helps with the graph behind the scenes that's used to determine whether people are real people or not. What's happening behind the scenes is that each of these groups is connected in some way based on how the users in the groups are connecting to each other. And so you have this graph of groups that's connected, and the system is trying to determine if your group belongs to the main graph that has real people in it. And so if you were to have a group over here that's not really well connected to the main graph of groups, then it wouldn't have a very good score. But that could mean two different things. It could either mean that your group is filled with fake people, or it could mean, in which case it should have a low score, or it could be just that you need to do some more work with connecting, and at that point you'd be able to bring up your score and be a part of the main graph. So there's actually a lot more to it, but I'm not going to be able to have time to get into all of that. But what can you do with BrightID? That's important to talk about. So right now you can't do anything with it except it's kind of like a meta game where you can try to get up your score if that's interesting to you, or I don't know, see how many connections you can get, but there's not really anything you can do with it right now. So what's in the future for BrightID? That's important. So at the bottom, there's apps, which will do absolutely nothing if you press on that. But in the future, there will be an in-app DApp browser for BrightID. And so the cool thing about BrightID is with each new app or DApp that joins the ecosystem, it's bringing in new users, and those users serve to strengthen the graph and make it easier for anyone else to be verified as a unique user. So for instance, if you're using BrightID to a BrightID-enabled Aragon DAO, by doing that, you might be helping someone else to be able to get verified to receive their universal basic income from a universal basic income DApp. So this is kind of the vision of BrightID and what we want to do with it. And yeah, it's really exciting what's coming up in the next year. But there's one more thing that I need you to do, and that's to go back to, let's see if I can I might have to hit the back button actually. Let's see. Yeah, that's too far. There we go. Go back to that page that you were just on and go down to the bottom, and you'll see a Telegram group and a Matrix group. Join one of those, because when you start using BrightID, we want you to be part of our community. So, and just give us feedback. And I didn't get to go very deep, so if you have questions, you can look for someone in an orange shirt. That would be either me or Philip, and we can talk to you about any questions you might have. Thank you very much.